Already.
All right. I am Barbara Ann Posey Jones, and I had the pleasure at 15 to work with uh, the NAACP Youth Council in Oklahoma City in starting one of the most extensive sit-in movements to take place in the country. And it started August 19, 1958. Um, and what happened? How did we get started? There had been a sit-in Wichita, Kansas, and Sam Cornelius, who at that time uh, was from Wichita, had worked in Wichita, had come by the NAACP Youth Council meeting that was taking place at the home of Clara Lupa, who was the advisor to the Youth Council. And he was telling us about what had happened in Wichita. And we said, hey, why don't we do that? And it turns out this was a Sunday evening. Oh, I'd say about 7 o'clock in August. And we got ready and we talked to the advisor and decided, yeah, we should do this. And the only store in downtown Oklahoma City that was open uh, on a Sunday evening was Cat's Drugstore. And Cat's Drugstore in Oklahoma City was one of several Cat's drugstores in the region. And so we got ready and we went to Cat's Drugstore and they had decided that the decision was made that I would be the spokesperson. And we talked about sit-ins and the nonviolent protest, et cetera. And so we had gotten our instructions on what we were to do, how we would do it, and so forth. And I was to be the spokesperson. And when we got there, we would simply go in, take our seats, and then if they indicated that we would not be served, then it would be my responsibility to simply say, thank you, we'll wait. And that is what we did. We had some parents who were in the area who drove us down, and we went to the Cat's Drugstore. And we went in, and there were some seats that were vacant at the lunch counter. And we took the seats as they became available. And when the waitress came up to say, well, we don't serve coloreds, we said, fine, thank you, we'll wait. And that is what happened. And we stayed there until the drugstore closed that evening. And we made the decision that the following morning that we were coming back. And so the next day we went back. And this went on for 3 days. And on day three, then the Cat's Drugstore decided that they would, in fact, serve us. I don't remember what we had, and I don't remember having any money either. So that was all beside the point. But we went on, and all of the people in the youth council, I think the oldest person, because my sister was in the group, I was 15 at the time. My sister was 17 because she had just finished high school. And there was another person who was in our class who was probably 18. But then we had the youngest child was 7. So we were really kids. And we went there and had our system. And then after they served us, then we walked down the street to, I think it was the FW Woolworth store. We went there and I guess we were same rules. Go there, take your seat. If they say they don't serve you, say thank you. I was to say thank you. We'll wait. And but by this time, the papers in Oklahoma City were carrying the story because after the first night, and we were there the next morning, uh, the it became local news, and we went on, and I guess probably I think it was less than a day that we were at Woolworth. Then we made the decision, and I think because Crest Five and Dime was next door. And I don't think they were, I think they were ready, like, okay, what do y'all want? Kind of thing. But John A. Brown was the largest department store in Oklahoma City. And all of these stores were located on Main Street. And the real story of that sit-in movement, well, first, after after Cat's Drugstore served us, then Cat's Drugstore made the decision that they would cease to discriminate in all of their stores. That rather than, they found out it didn't hurt them, but they just decided that they would desegregate all of their lunch counters and all of the Cat's drugstores in their system. So, as I was mentioning, John A. Brown was across the street from Cat's, and John A. Brown had a large cafeteria in their basement, and they made the decision that they were not going to serve us. And by this time, and every day as we carried on these demonstrations, more and more people joined us. And we went on and we went to John A. Brown, same thing, same instructions. We went there, we took seats, and when they explained to us that we were not there, our patronage was not wanted, we explained, thank you, we will wait. And by now, more and more children had joined the movement. There were other people in the city who had joined. And we were there and we stayed there and went back every day, all day, until school started. And this is when school started, the first day after Labor Day. And we stayed. And we continued that demonstration at John A. Brown. And it actually went on for 2 years. Now, we went to school and we would come down on Saturdays and spend our Saturdays sitting in John A. Brown's cafeteria. And and as things proceeded, John A. Brown was not serving anybody because we had enough people participating in our movement to take all of the seats in the cafeteria. And there is a nice story that was run in a September issue of Jet magazine with pictures of the Oklahoma City sit-ins and what was going on there. Okay, and so, but John A. Brown was determined that they were not going to serve us. And as things proceeded, we had cooperation taking place in the city. People were canceling their charge accounts at John A. Brown. And that it turned out that this was not good for their business. There were people who were boycotting John A. Brown's, et cetera. And but it was after it was more than it was after it was 2 years. It was after 2 years, then they made the decision and they would serve us. And there was an Animod's cafeteria, which was a couple of blocks further away, and they were not going to. But after John A. Brown started serving us and things broke down, and this was really the desegregation of all of the stores, the lunch, basically eating places in Oklahoma City. And not only did it cover Oklahoma City, but it covered other areas. And I guess you probably have in your record of what went on in Oklahoma at the University of Oklahoma, where there was the desegregation there. And Ada Lois Scipio Fisher, who was a very well-known person, was desegregating the University of Oklahoma. Then McLaurin, and I think she was a graduate student, but McLaurin went to law school there, and they did not want him in law school, and they were kind enough to give him a room all by himself at the edge of the regular classrooms. And he took his seat there, and he was a student in law school because there was no opportunity for blacks to go to law school in Oklahoma at the time. And I think one thing that was somewhat different about the Oklahoma City sit-ins and what had happened in some other areas is the police were present. No one bothered us, and the police did protect us. We did not. There was nobody coming in throwing coffee at us or anything. And but the important thing is there was support of the city. Even the principal of the black high school came. We had meetings throughout the city at different churches, and we would meet there, and the city would people would give support because when we were there all day, then we did, since they weren't serving us, but there was a need for food. There were some costs involved, and funds were raised. The adult chapter of the NAACP began to support the program, the movement, and that's, I guess, really, I guess if there's some questions I can answer, I'd be glad to do that. But it was a very, well, you can say, well, yeah, but were you afraid? Well, I mean, you have a certain amount of fear. It wasn't of what could happen. And I remember very well that my father had, because our parents, by the way, needless to say, as I said, it started the way it started. Our parents didn't know we were going. We were at the meeting. When we left the meeting and went downtown and started the sit-ins, nobody called their parents and said, hey, is it okay if I go down? No, no, no. We just went. The next morning, I remember very well that uh, my parents and went to work. And when they left to go to work, my sister and I got up and dressed and went to Mrs. Looper's house, and we then had transportation was available, and we went downtown to Cat's drugstore. And then by then the story was in the evening news, and other people knew, and then our parents knew what we had been doing during the day. So that was a good experience. And they never suggested to us that we not do it. At least they did not at that point. But my father, I remember at one point, asked me, because of the fact that I was the spokesperson, then all I had done all of the interviews that were being done by one of the youth involved in the movement. And then people began interviewing later on Mrs. Looper because they found out who she was as the faculty advisor to the youth council. But he asked me because people had given him some warnings, I, I guess sending the message to me that could mean that once I got out of school, it might interfere with my ability to get a job in Oklahoma City. And I made the decision that it was more important that I do that than it was to be employed in that area. And so that was never something my father suggested or my mother suggested that we not do, but it was simply a matter of saying, let's say what could be the cost. And your decision is what you should make. And that's what we did. Oh, and by the way, not only did during this period, not only did there was there the desegregation of lunch counters, cafeterias, but also movie theaters, and that really opened up Oklahoma City to the Black population as well as the whites. And Oklahoma City really, in a very quiet way, well, not really quiet because it was covered on national news, but they did change the whole pattern throughout the city.